Hello, it's Beverly L. Nickerson. I'm a seashell reader, I'm a sensitive, and I'm on the shamanic path. Let me get you in the right, good. And I'm coming to you today on March the 30th, 2024. And what we're going to talk about is this seashell here from the Ocean Oracle Deck. So if you're not familiar with me, I am a seashell reader, I'm a sensitive, some people call themselves empath, and I'm on the shamanic path. And you see this seashell right here? Seashell number 96, and it comes from the Ocean Oracle deck. Let me turn this down a little bit. And this is the Ocean Oracle deck. Have you ever seen this before? Well, if you know me, you know that this is my thing. And ever since March of 2024, Pisces, well, Saturn went into the sign of Pisces for the next 3 years. I'm not an astrologer, so I would send you to watch someone like Pamela Gregory or the Leo King or Lada, and they go into more depth of what's happening. But based on the astrology for the next 3 years, people that work with water, it's a very powerful modality to be working with right now. And I am a Scorpio Cancer rising, so that means I'm double water, and I have water in other placements in my chart. So you see this is the Ocean Oracle, What Seashells Reveal About Your True Nature by Michelle Hansen. I've had this deck for about 12 years now, but it's just in the last year that I've really taken on doing live and in-person sessions with people and giving group collective messages. So today I'm giving a group collective message. And you see, this is a group collective message that has to do with the times that we're in. So we are in very precarious times, to say the least. And this shell, the St. James Scallop, has to do with being someone's hero or the hero journey. So I'm going to take this off, get myself comfortable. Are any of you familiar with the hero's journey? Well, the hero's journey is depicted by Joseph Campbell, but he wrote about that in the 1940s, and then in 1987, it's also the book called The Hero with 10,000 Faces. And this is a theme that goes back from the beginning, even before Jesus. But Jesus lived this life of the hero, and there are 12 steps to the hero's journey. And I ask you today to look at, where are you on the hero's journey? Where are you on the hero's journey? Now, let me tell you a little bit about this seashell before we go any further into the 12 steps of the hero's journey as outlined by Joseph Campbell. But this theme and this story goes way, way back, even before Jesus. This is a story about the hero's journey, and we are going through it as a collective. You hear what I'm saying? This is a collective. Each one of us are going through the hero's journey, and it's up to each one of us to get on that path and do our unique mission to help what some people call the age of Aquarius, birthing the new earth, coming into the Christ collective consciousness, not I'm over here and I'm Episcopalian and you're over there because you're another religion. No, it's all coming together into the Christ consciousness. So this is the book that accompanies the seashells. So if I was doing a reading for you, I would ask you to pick 8 to 10 seashells that you find attractive, that you're, now again, there's so many beautiful shells in here. And look at, I have on one of the scallop. There are 3 scallop shells in this deck, and I have on one of them. And to tell you the truth, I really can't tell the difference between the St. James scallop and the other 2 in there. I can just tell the difference based on what people choose. But I have many, many seashells, and many of them are scallops. And I think that they're all St. James scallops. And look at this. My mother covered this whole bottle with what I believe are the St. James scallops. Isn't this pretty? There were lots of scallop shells on the beaches of Martha's Vineyard. Lots and lots and lots of them. Now, a scallop shell like this, I don't remember seeing them this big on Martha's Vineyard. I don't remember where I got this from. You know, it could have been given to me as a gift. I'm not sure, maybe in Florida, but they're different kinds of scallops. And the one that I'm going to focus on today is the one in the Ocean Oracle deck called the St. James Scallop Shell. So I'm going to read to you a little bit about it. So when the ancient visitors made the pilgrimage to the shrine of St. James, the apostle of Compostela, Spain, and excuse me if I'm not pronouncing it properly, they adorned their hats and their clothes with scallop shells from that area. Also, the Crusaders, these are the Crusaders that preceded now. These are the holy war people. Now, I'm boo-boo on all war, all of it. However, back then, there were the holy wars. And during these holy wars, they would cover their arms, I guess their knight coats of arm, with the local scallop shells. And then later, they took those scallop shells and they put it onto the British heraldry. So they actually, I guess, engraved it onto the coat of arms, and then they would make these big coat of arms with the scallop shells on it. And what that would represent is a, quote, hero coming back from a holy war back in like the 1300s. Now, people have been going to this pilgrimage. And if you start the pilgrimage on the French side, and I wrote some notes about it because I've never been on it, but this is something I would like to do. And when my friend Violetta announces the date, I will let you all know about it. It's the Camino de Santiago. Now, the Camino de Santiago starts at Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, and it goes to Santiago de Compostela. It's about 30 to 40 days of walking. And you walk about 25 kilometers a day. So if you look at that and you do the math, if you walk the whole thing, it's 484 miles. Yes, 484 miles, which is 760 kilometers if you do the whole thing. But you can do 100 kilometers, you can do 200 kilometers and still get a certificate, or you can do much less. But the whole idea is to go on this pilgrimage, and you'll have your backpack and just the basics that you need. You probably wear the same clothes over and over in your raincoat, and then have nice hiking boots and socks and things like that. And then there are all these different stops along the way, hostels that you could stay at. But on your backpack, you're going to have lots of these scallop shells. So everyone knows that you are a pilgrim. And while you're walking, you're meditating, you're breathing, and you're focusing on what it is you want to heal. And people come from all over the world. Matter of fact, I looked it up. In 2023, more Americans went on this trip than ever before. Yeah. And I think it's because of all the lockdowns and everything that's been happening around the world. It really pushed the Americans to go over and do this pilgrimage of Santiago de Compostela. And it doesn't matter what race you are, what religion you are, what age you are. I've seen people in wheelchairs do it. And if you start on the French side of the Pyrenees, but you can start anywhere, you end up, at a place called the Camino Francis, Saint-Jean-de-Port on the French side of the Pyrenees. And then you end up at the Santiago de Compostela. So that is where the seashell comes in. And the seashells come in from the holy wars. Boo on wars. I'm focused on peace. But that's where wearing the St. James scallop comes from. Now, the hero's journey, as depicted in Joseph Campbell's book, The Hero of 10,000 Faces, is a common hero story. Now, if you're like me, you like The Lord of the Rings, or you like Star Wars, or even Neo in The Matrix, it follows these 12 steps. Jesus Christ's life followed these 12 steps too. And we are coming to an end of an era. If you're into astrology, we're at the end of the Piscean age, the two fishes, which is represented in the Christ story as well. And we're coming into the age of the Aquarius. And the age of the Aquarius is the water bearer, but it's air. And in this new age, that we're heading into, you and me, we are asked to be the hero. It's not someone who's just going to come and save us. We are asked to go on the hero's journey and do our part. So let me outline the different steps. Again, this is Beverly, if you just tuned in, and I'm a seashell reader, and I work with the Ocean Oracle deck, and we're talking about the St. James Scallop, seashell number 96, which is the hero's journey. So the hero's journey, this book was written in 1949. It's called a monomyth. And it's basically just another fancy word for saying it's the common hero's narrative. So you've got this protagonist, the hero, and I'm going to ask you to take a moment and visualize, this is me, and where am I on this journey? So this is how the journey starts off. You get the call to adventure. I'm going to push you out a little bit more. So have you heard the call? Have you gotten some kind of idea, something in your heart, something that connects your heart and said, hey, this is my special mission on the planet. I'm really good with children. I'm really good with animals. I'd like to help the homeless. I would really like to do something about peace. That's the first thing, is you hear something or you feel something. The next is refusal to the call. It's like, oh no, this is too much. And I ask you, if you're in phase 2 of the 12 steps and you're going, no, this is too much. Be like a turtle. Turtle swims in the ocean. Some turtles, they could swim all the way to Cuba. And then they walk slowly on the land. So just slowly, step by step, go towards this hero's journey goal. So it's the call to the adventure. Then it's a refusal of the call because it could be a large, daunting task. Maybe you want to work with special needs children in a third world country. That seems overwhelming, but you can start small. Number 3 is meeting the mentor. You may meet many mentors. My first mentor was my rebirther, and that was in the 90s. And his name was Jim Worsley, and he went and hung out with Babaji in the 70s. And the rebirthing helped me so much because I just learned how to slow down my breathing, just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, or in through the mouth and out through the mouth. And I'll tell you what helps me now more than anything. It's just 11 minutes of the Wim Hof breath. And I can put that in the description below. 11 minutes of the Wim Hof breath. Look what he did. He had 5 children, I believe, and his wife had a mental illness and jumped off a high-story building and left him. And they loved each other so much, but she had a mental illness. She started listening to the negative thoughts in her mind, jumped off a building, and then he became this powerful, powerful breathwork person. I mean, he is amazing. Now, you're not going to see me getting into an ice cold bath, even though that's really good, but he does that, or hiking up a mountain with just shorts and a t-shirt on. But he shows us how we can slow down our breathing and we can overcome any kind of illness, any kind of problem. So do you have a mentor? Do you have several mentors? And it's not about worshiping someone. It's about looking at this mentor and what qualities do they have and what training do they have that you don't have. So that's number 3. Number 4 is crossing the threshold. Now, crossing the threshold could just mean leaving your condo or leaving your townhouse or leaving your town or leaving your country. But you've got to cross the threshold. You cannot be on the hero's journey and just stay in your room. And I understand why people are agoraphobic these days, especially if you're watching the negative, worthless news. I mean, that's just overwhelming. Who'd want to even leave your house? Because they get a lot of, I guess I'd say the mainstream media is geared towards keeping you in fear, and then somehow they have the solution, whether it's some kind of medicine that's a prescription drug or some kind of distraction. So we don't want to do that. Now, number 5 of the 12 steps of the hero's journey, as laid out by Joseph Campbell in his book, is the test. And a lot of people connect this test with, or the analogy of, in the Bible, Jonah in the belly of the whale. Now, I actually saw a video. I don't know if it was on Instagram, but it was like a real person who got swallowed by a whale. Now, of course, he didn't get all the way into the stomach. He just got into the whale's mouth, and the whale spit him back out, and he got some bruises and scratches, but he was okay. But he was like a modern day Jonah. Well, if you feel like you're in the belly of a whale, then you are in the middle of wrestling with some things. It could be family members, it could be an intimate partner, it could be where you're working, it could be your health. But that is stage number 5. Now, number 6 is much lighter. It's allies. Do you have any allies? And sometimes people that were your allies before are no longer your allies because you resonated a little bit differently than they are, or maybe you have decided that you want to go on this path and they've decided they don't want to go on this path with you. So basically, this is all about collecting allies. And you don't have to like recruit allies. You just get drawn to each other because we are drawn to our vibration. So now that I do the breath work, now that I do Kundalini yoga and I'm doing walks, my vibration is going up and I'm attracting new people. Now, number 7 is a little bit scary. It's about the enemies. Now, in Lord of the Rings, they had the orcs. I guess in Star Wars, it was Darth Vader. The hobbits, they had their, whatever those beings were. I guess there were orcs, but there were other beings too that they had to dodge. So it's about the enemies. And it's not about being paranoid, but it's about putting on your armor and being mindful of who's around you. Now, number 8 is the approach. Now, when you do the approach, I want your heart and your head to be coordinated, because I was always one to be like, oh, this feels good. And I would just jump right in. I don't do that anymore. I coordinate my head and my heart together before I move forward. I don't just jump into things. In human design, I guess I'm a projector. So when I get invited to things, I get excited. But sometimes what I'm invited into is not for my highest good. So look at that part of it, the approach. Number 9 is the ordeal. I feel like this is where we are in humanity. We're at the ordeal. I had a dream. Guess it was last Sunday night. If any of you have ever been to Martha's Vineyard, I had a dream that I was looking. There is like a drawbridge that goes between Vineyard Haven and Oak Bluffs. So in my dream, I saw the drawbridge go open, and the police told me to get out of my vehicle. And then later they said I could go back in my vehicle, but I couldn't find my car. I was looking everywhere, and I was going down these little streets and I couldn't find it. And it was a very disturbing dream. And the next morning I saw that some kind of large ship hit the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which is a bridge that 31,000 people go over every day. I think it's from PG County to Baltimore. I very rarely go over it. I have gone over it maybe once or twice. I usually go 95 right through the tunnel. But what is that about? Like, how did that happen? So the astrologer that I watch, which is Lada, and she promotes a Bulgarian astrologer that I believe does sidereal astrology, which is a little different than Western astrology. And he had predicted, based on something with Pisces, because Pisces is water and the fish, that there would be some catastrophes that had to do with very large ships and vessels. And that happened. And then there was another one that sunk in Japan that had highly toxic material on it. So in the times that we're in, the not so light part of it is we are going to see more events that have to do with nautical disasters. And I don't like to use that word, but they are disasters. When you're talking 31,000 people go over that bridge every day, and the whole thing, and it's like 1.5 miles. And I mean, the only good news is there weren't that many, but there were still people that lost their lives. I'm so sorry. There were people, it could have been worse. It could have been in the middle of the day. But what I'm saying is that that's part of what we're going through. And it seems like wherever you turn, we're going through some kind of ordeal. What happened in Israel, that was such a horrific ordeal. What's happening in Gaza, that's a horrific ongoing ordeal. And I'm like, I love everybody. So I'm not taking anyone's side at all. but it's just an ongoing ordeal. What's happening in Ukraine, now what's happening in Russia, it's going on and on. And so we are in the middle of the ordeal. But the good news is, after the ordeal, we get the reward. So if you're in Lord of the Rings, you get the ring. If you are in the Christ story, the reward is the resurrection and the road back. Now, of course, Joseph Campbell calls it the road back, and then the resurrection, the return of the king. And that's how the story ends. So if each and every one of us is on the hero's journey, and we're focusing on peace, we're focusing on oneness, we're focusing on creating and designing a new earth. And if every single man, and I say man, just because that's the majority of beings that are in the military, if both sides just simultaneously put down all of their weapons, then we could have peace. Who does all these wars really, who benefits? You have to ask yourself, who benefits? Big industrial complex, maybe? Who benefits from you being a nervous wreck? Let me take a sip here. This is my medicine. Where is it? Medicine, where are you? Oh, here. Cacao from Guatemala. 100% cacao. I get it from Narda. And I just put a little bit of cinnamon in it, a dash of black pepper, all organic, and turmeric to keep my nice and limber. And then I might put, after it cools off, a little bit of honey. It doesn't have a lot of caffeine in it. It has theobromine, food of the gods, and it creates a train in the brain that gives me a serotonin uptake. So why am I saying all this? I'm talking about the hero's journey. I'm talking about St. James Scallop, because I'm talking about these are tools that you need to stay on the hero's journey, because you have to have energy. You can't just be living off some kind of shots of coffee and then crashing. You need something that's going to keep your spirits up. And alcohol is connected to the lower spirit. So I don't recommend any alcohol at all. Now, if you're one of those people that can afford very fine wine every now and then, go ahead. But there are certain people that just don't have the enzymes to metabolize it, and just creates havoc in their body, havoc in their mind, kills brain cells, and it can also cause violence. So I don't recommend alcohol. Now, you do what you want. It's just a little plug here. So The Hero with 1,000 Faces by Professor Joseph Campbell, actually it was written in 1987. He also talks about the shapeshifter. Now, the shapeshifter kind of slides in there, is often the love interest of the hero, but creates a lot of havoc and trouble for the hero. So when you're on the hero's journey, you don't have to be lonely, but a lot of times it's a solitary road. So there may be people flattering you, there may be people that want to get with you, they maybe want to hook up with you, but the hero's journey is so specific. If you know what your journey is, if that person doesn't align with it, they're going to take you off the road. And right now, human beings are at this big crossroad. So what are you going to do when the shapeshifter comes in? Thank you very much, and sidestep it. Doesn't mean that they're not beautiful, doesn't mean they're not a good person, but if they are not totally aligned with your hero's journey, you got to walk around them. Okay. So let me read this to you. So when the ancient visitors made their pilgrimage to the shrine of St. James the Apostle in Compostela, Spain, they adorned their hats with scallop shells native to the area. The Crusaders used scallop mementos as clothing ornaments on their return journey from the Holy Wars. Again, boo, war, yay, peace. These sacred journeys were eventually immortalized in British heraldry. The scallops were depicted on the British coat of arms. Have you ever seen the coat of arms where you see a beautiful scallop shell? Well, now you know where it comes from. a symbol of heroic family ancestors that came back from the Crusades and made their pilgrimage to St. James. Another link of heroism occurred when the Scallop became the symbol of the Knights of Garter, an order of British knighthood which Sir Winston Churchill was a member. Now, it's interesting that Michelle Hansen brought up Winston Churchill. Now, I am not a World War II kind of person in terms of liking to watch it at all. But because of the times we're in, I was staying at someone's house, and I think it's on Apple TV, and it was called The Last Hour, something like that. And it was about Winston Churchill and the SS or the Nazis or the German soldiers in World War II had conquered France. And they were just about to conquer England. And he was getting all this pressure by Parliament to give in and surrender to the Germans. And what he did was he got on the local train where the people who commute back and forth go. And he got on the train and he started asking the average person, like the guy that owned the farm or the guy that owned the store or the woman that worked as a secretary, the average person, do you want to be under the German control? Do you want me to surrender? And every single one of them said, no, no, no. Now, wouldn't it be nice if our politicians would ask the average person, there's someone that comes every week and picks up the trash. There is somebody that sweeps up the condo that I live in. There is somebody that harvests the food that I eat because I go to the farmer's market. He lives like an hour and a half from here. Has the best, local food. I just had some wonderful broccoli stir-fried. Let's ask them, or me, or the preschool teacher, or, let's ask us, do we want to continue with all of these wars? Do we want to continue with money going to other places other than our own infrastructure? So we could have like safe bridges, so we can have schools that have better education. Let's ask the local people. So on the hero's journey, this may spark something in you. Like, I really love children. I worked in preschool for a few years when my son was small. I ran into Shakta Khalsa, and guess what? I got 200 of her books. She was the first person that I ever heard of teaching children yoga, starting in the 80s. She was a Montessori school teacher. And now there are people who are physicians, pediatricians, and people that have children that are neurodivergent that teach yoga to their children to help them to focus. I mean, if I didn't do Kundalini yoga, I wouldn't be able to focus because I'm a sensitive. I'm a double water. So I'm always getting distracted. Like I'm going to bed on the full moon lunar eclipse, and I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm very, very sick. I mean, I'm just crying and I'm purging and I'm sick and I'm sick and I'm sick. Definitely wasn't what I ate because I made a nice fresh lentil soup. Everything was organic. There's nothing wrong with it. I had it the night before. It was because I was just overwhelmed with what was happening on the planet, especially what's happening in Russia right now. I was just overwhelmed. I feel great now, but we each have to do our hero's journey. So let's go back to the hero's journey. And as we know, what is the holiday tomorrow? Let me get down here. Tomorrow is Easter, right? And that's the resurrection part. So let's go over the 12 steps. So first you have to what? Hear the call, right? Have you heard the call? Mine is to work with my natural gift as a sensitive, to work with the Ocean Oracle deck, to promote holistic and natural living, to put out my newsletter, maybe do some retreats. What is yours? And the refusal of the call. There are so many times that I refuse the call. Oh, I'm afraid to do an Instagram live. I'm afraid to do a YouTube live. I did this YouTube earlier today and there was no sound at all. I could have easily just said, oh, I give up. But I decided to do it again. Meeting the mentor. I have several mentors. I love Ilanya Vassant. I go way back to Louise Hay. I do all her affirmations on a regular basis. Part of the School of Mystics with Michael Sandler. I do automatic writing through Michael Sandler. I get up in the morning and I say, what do I need to know today, while listening to binaural beats? And there's a whole step for that. And I could put that link underneath this video. Crossing the threshold. You don't have to leave your condo if you don't want to, or your apartment or your big house. But you got to get out there. So if you want to use YouTube or Instagram, even though there's some big restrictions, you got to be careful what you say. That's an option as well these days. They even have Rumble now. And number 5, the test. The belly. Are you in the belly of the beast? What are the tests? Did the man or the woman that you thought was your life partner leave you for somebody else? Did they disappoint you? Did they turn out to be a narcissist? What's going on? That's actually a blessing, because Great Spirit is taking out of your life someone that's not in alignment with your hero's journey and your soul mission. But when it first happens, it can feel devastating, especially if between 0 and 7, you were extremely disappointed by a parent. Believe me, I know. I had big abandonment issues. Now I spend a lot of time alone, but I don't feel alone. I'm like, oh, I have Great Spirit. I have the dogs that I walk. I have my ancestors. I have my totem animals. I have the angels. Archangel Samuel has been working with me. So you're never alone. You just might not be walking next to another human being right now as you are embarking on this hero's journey. Number 7 is a tough one. Enemies. I don't like that word, enemy. I don't like the word hate or enemy, but sometimes there are beings out there that are so biochemically imbalanced that they have allowed the lower spirits to get into them, and they go out of their way to get in front of you as you're doing your hero's journey. It's just the way it is. Happened to me when I went to Costa Rica. I was all excited about, oh, this is my place to start a healing center and this and that, but no, it was not the time. And I had gotten myself around people that were drinking alcohol. And so when you're drinking alcohol, you bring in the lower spirit. So again, it doesn't mean that in the future I won't do a retreat to Costa Rica, or I won't even have a healing center there one day, but that was not the right time. So if you see the enemies, you don't run. Just put on your invisible armor of God. Sometimes cloak yourself. When I come home, I do sea salt showers and baths and keep going. And then number 8 is the approach. And when I say the approach, I used to do everything based on the heart-head coordination. So you got to be strategic these days, okay? Look at it as a chess game. You got to be strategic when you're doing your approach. And number 9 is the ordeal. And that's what I believe the collective is going through. And nobody can tell you the hour or the day that this ordeal is going to be over. I mean, just when you think one ordeal is over, then another ordeal. And now we're at the point where we could have a war that could wipe out all humanity. I mean, this just sounds like the darkest scenario possible. So what I ask you to do is focus on the highest timeline for humanity, and what is your part in that. And then once you know that, then you grab the reward. You get the reward, okay? You get the ring. Jesus was able to resurrect after being on the cross. But I look at it as the Christ consciousness. When I went to South Africa about, 12 years ago, the white lions of Timbavate were a sign that we're entering into the Christ consciousness according to the Shandong people. I'm looking forward to seeing Linda Tucker when she comes in town. I see that she's going to be here from South Africa sometime in June. And I have to look at where she's going to be in upstate New York. And I'll pass that along to you as well. Get the reward. And then number 11 is the road back. And number 12 is the resurrection, the return of the king or the queen. Or, again, it's not about male or female. It's just they use that term in the story. So I just wanted to come on the day before Easter and share with you again Ocean Oracle, St. James Scallop Shell, The Hero's Journey. And just take a moment, where are you? Between now, because we just had the lunar eclipse, and April the 8th, which is the solar eclipse, this is a good time to write down anything you want to let go of. It could be an ache, it could be a pain, it could be a relationship, it could be a recurring thoughts, anything you want to get rid of. Write it down and burn it. And then April the 8th, step into your new self, your new power, and then walk proudly on the Hero's Journey road. And April the 8th is the solar eclipse. Now, I'm not recommending going out and looking at it. I know it's going to cross right somewhere in Texas, and it goes through 7 towns called Salem, and Salem somehow means repentance or peace. I had heard on one of the videos, and then a place called Nivea, and that's in the Bible as well. So it's a very auspicious time. So I personally am not going to go anywhere. I watch him on TV. So the Leo King is going to be doing something, and Pam Gregory talks about this solar eclipse, and so does Lada. So if you're into astrology, look at that. If you want to just focus on the Christ consciousness, what can I do that's Christ-like to help peace on the planet? Okay. So anyway, it's past my time. So here we go. I'm finishing up. Oh, just let me tell you, if you want a reading with me, what I do is, and I'm seeing people. I saw 2 people in my house today, which was fantastic. It was so nice to have like real human beings in my place again, and they were local. I live in Reston. So basically, what you do is I will email you these beautiful seashells. Okay, so number 1 through 65 is the behavioral group. Aren't they pretty? So these seashells mean something according to their behavior in the water, their behavior with each other. It has to do with their behavior. That's how Michelle or Shelley came up with what they mean. And the next group is 66 through 106, which is the interaction. How do they interact? How do they interact with each other? How do they interact with you? How do they interact with beings? So that's the next group. And again, I just send this in an email as an attachment. I recommend that you open it on your laptop or your computer, not on your phone, because it's hard to see. And you just take, like I have on some light music in the background that has sounds of the soothing ocean in the background. Maybe light a candle if you want, or take a shower first, but just be relaxed. And then cruise through these seashells. The next one is name and appearance group. And the shells are so pretty. If you take too long, it's hard to pick, because you're like, I like this one, I like this one, I like that one, okay? So I would say don't take more than 15 minutes. And the last group is intuition. And she said intuition because it was just her intuition what they meant. But I've done many readings now, and you have to do the modules, and I've gone to module 5. And it's like a mini course in oceanography. It's like you learn a lot about the mollusks, which are the soft, mushy animals that live inside the shell. And you learn about what they eat, and how they operate in the ocean, how do they catch their food, do they come on the shore, and all of that. You learn a lot. Now, I haven't yet memorized the scientific names of the seashells, but that's my next goal. And as I said, growing up, I picked up lots and lots of seashells in the 70s and the 80s and 90s, all the way up to 2017. My mom made lots of seashell jewelry. She didn't sell a whole lot of it because she wasn't a real outgoing person like that to go to the different, fairs that they had on the island. But she always said it was her therapy. She didn't believe in therapy. She didn't go to any particular church. But I realized that the main seashell that she worked with, and the ones that were the most abundant on Martha's Vineyard, were the scallop shells. And the scallop shell is all about the hero's journey. And after her disappointment with my dad, she had to go on her own personal hero's journey to overcome that healing of that disappointment. So we've all had disappointments, we've all had obstacles, we've all had trials and tribulation, but right now, let's come together as one global family and focus on your particular special gift. There's no hierarchy anymore. There's no like king up there and then we're the peasants. That's ending. I wish I could tell you when it's really going to end because nobody knows, but it is ending. And so you do your little part and I'll do my little part. And believe you me, we are going to have a world that's peaceful and no more war and no more I'm from this side of the world and you're from that side of the world and I'm better than you and because of my skin or my sexual orientation, or none of that, even matters anymore. It won't matter anymore. It'll all be about the inner Christ consciousness and being on your own hero's journey. And once you end that, once you, get the prize, you bring it back to the community and share it with everyone. So thank you so much on this Saturday evening for being with me and listening about the St. James Scallop Shell, part of the Ocean Oracle readings. What seashells reveal about your true nature. And I'm Beverly L. Nickerson, and I'm a seashell reader. I'm on the shamanic path, and I'm a sensitive. And I'd be more than happy to help you with a seashell reading, and we could do it in person or online. Also, if you'd like, I can do a shamanic cleansing on you as well. I'm not a shaman. I'm just on the shamanic path, and I've worked with many indigenous shamans over the years. So I leave you tonight. Peace and blessings. Thank you so much for tuning in. Love you all. Peace.